the regime is very smart. Something that we need to consider and we need to think about is that the regime understands how to fight, how to suppress people, how to create distrust. People are scared, people are tired, and we get betrayed again and again by everybody, and the opposition is in shambles. If he had the backbone to actually do this work, I would 100% support him. I want to be offensive. I want my freedom of expression to be offensive. I want to offend for the rest of my life. And these people do not understand it. And I don't want that in my country. We already have it. We have a king. He's wearing a turban. I think it's time for Iranians to have that democracy. What if we mess up? The US elected Trump for the second time and nobody's revoking their democracy card. So why are we less of humans in Iran? Why don't we get that kind of treatment? This is part of my life now, it's resistance. I'm doomed to fight back for the rest of my life. It's not a choice. I can't be silent. It's not a choice. Look at how women are still fighting in Iran, even though there's no support from the outside world. The dead. I get my strength from the dead. Say something. Stand up. Be vocal. Be angry. Rock the boat. Capsize the fucking boat.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Yasmine Mohammed Podcast. We have a very special episode today. You're used to seeing me at the front of the camera asking the questions and Sara behind the scenes managing all of the chat and everything. Today, we're going to be flipping things around because Sara is going to be leading the conversation all about her homeland of Iran. So Sara is going to be talking to us for the first 20 minutes or so about the past 47 years of Iran and what it's been going through with the Islamic regime colonizing her country. And then there's going to be an opportunity for you to ask her questions, to join in on the conversation, to let us know your thoughts, your feelings, anything that you want to share with us about Iran, if it's your homeland, or if you have any questions about what's going on with America and Israel and everything. There's a lot of confusing information out there, a lot of people that are trying to push you in one direction or another with their, propaganda. And so Sara is here to dispel all of those myths and to bring you the truth. And welcome, Sara. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me, Yasmine. I appreciate it. And hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I am going to spend about 15-20 minutes just looking at my notes and go through all of these things. And I'm not going to see the chat. I apologize because a lot of information and I can't remember everything. Dates, names, times, and then I'll talk to you directly and answer questions. So I'm going to start from around 1970s, the time that Pahlavi was still in power, the last Shah of Iran. And at early 1970s, he started changing the official government policy. It shifted from aggressive secularism to co-opting religious institutions as a way to blunt Islamist opposition. He started adopting authoritarian one-party rule. He had one party that was called Rastakhis. And then he started empowering Sabak, the secret police, and they started suppressing dissidents at the same time. The Shah authorized constructions of thousands of mosques, religious schools, madrasas, Islamic centers. The government funded mosques and mosque constructions directly, including through the Pahlavi Foundation and the Ministry of Religious Affairs. By 1977, we had an estimated number of the mosques were about 35,000 in Iran. So they just grew. And yes, he was a secular, modernizing Shah, but he did this to undercut the growing influence of communists and leftists. He wanted to win over the traditional clergy and the mullahs by appearing as a protector of Islam. And he wanted to create a state-controlled version of Islam that was loyal to monarchies. This led to the rise of Islamists, and of course, the leftists and trade unionists and the communists and dissidents all realized that this is a powerful group of people, and they started talking to them. They created this coalition together, and the oppositions joined forces together. One of the most atrocious things they did was in 1978, I think, if I'm not wrong, they set fire to Cinema Rex, and this is one of the worst things that happened before the revolution. The Islamists locked the doors. They set fire to the building and killed approximately 420 people at the movie theater. And then they blamed it on the Shah's regime and his brutality. People got angry, of course. It worked. So Pahlavi was ousted and he was forced to flee the country in 1979. He hoped the US would bring him back as they had done before, like in 1953 during the 28th of Mordor coup, when the US and the Britain overthrew democratically elected government Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. So we had the revolution. Of course, they didn't bring him back. And after revolution, political shifts started to happen. Universities were temporarily closed. Hijab became compulsory. Cultural and political purges started, executions, murders. Previous regime leaders and prominent politicians were all killed one way or another. There were protests, of course. Women started resisting mandatory hijab, came out, didn't want to wear it. And then we had cultural revolution. At the same time, we had about 52 American hostages held for 444 days after the US embassy was seized. The numbers were higher, but some were released. So 52 people were held hostage. This is important because I'll talk about this later as well. There were lots of massacres, crackdowns on oppositions, like a lot of repression happened. And then the military campaign against the Kurdish people started. Khomeini declared a jihad against Kurdish people and labeled them as enemies of Islam. So the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, and that I doesn't stand for Iran, it's Islamic. And the regular army were both dispatched to crush Kurdish dissent. Thousands of people were killed. Executions happened, whether they were political prisoners, suspected militants, civilians. There was no trial, of course. People were just killed. A war crime was announced, and there were mass arrests. Entire villages were bombarded and depopulated. In 1980, the 8-year war between Iraq and Iran started. The regime instigated the opposition groups to Saddam, and in retaliation, Saddam attacked Iran. So we had the 8-year war. That war lasted for 8 years, but it could be over in about 9 months because Khomeini believed that it was a gift from God. He just prolonged it because it helped keep people in control and afraid, and nobody would oppose a country at war. The casualty estimates at this time is about 1 million total. Heavy civilian and military losses. I remember 13-year-old boys in kafiyas. It was very religiously motivated. They would be sent to the war zones, and they would die on minefields, most of them, and then they would be returned they would be brought back in big coffins, also covered in kafiyas decades later. In 1988, when the war was over and Khomeini was forced to sign a ceasefire, he started purging prisoners. That's the summer of 1988, where estimated 50,000 political prisoners were executed without due process. They were buried in mass graves. If you say Khavaran, that's the cemetery. A lot of us know just what you're talking about. They wanted to purge dissidents and ensure a lasting control over the country, which worked. And they also would charge people for the bullet price that they had used to execute people in order to give them the name of the cemetery the person was buried in. My uncle was a prisoner for about 3 years before this happened. He had no day in court. They just kept him in prison for about 3 years. He was in solitary confinement for 13 months. So personal, I understand how it happened, and it's Then in 1994, we had the bombing in Imam Reza Shrine, and there were forced confessions happening. A bomb exploded in Mashhad Imam Reza Shrine, and about 26 people died. About 70 people were injured. They blamed MEK for it. State TV aired forced confessions from alleged suspects, including coerced young girls that were linked to MEK. Widely believed to be fabricated, not the bombing, the confessions. And at the same time,
Sorry, Sarah, to interrupt you.
Yes.
Can you just clarify MEK? What does that acronym stand for?
This is for the Mujahideen. They are the jihadis who are living outside Iran at the moment, and they are one of the contenders to opposition. And then we had targeted assassinations happening, chain murders of politically motivated assassinations carried out in late 1990s. by elements within the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence, targeting intellectuals, dissidents, writers, and political activists and their family members. Karun Hajizadeh was 9 years old when he was murdered. He was stabbed 10 times just because he was in the room with his father, who was supposed to be killed. There is no definite or publicly confirmed total number of people who were murdered, but because they disguised this as accidents, unsolved murders, suicides. At the same time, we know the estimate to be about 80 to 100 people. The regime, of course, obstructed investigation and they threatened families. It was awful. This happened at the time that we had Khatami's reform era. He was voted in 1997, initiating a reform wave, freedom of press, culture grew, we had theater, publications. It was blooming. And then in 1999, the university dormitory attack happened. Students' protests supporting freedom of press were quashed by security forces and plainclothes militia. We call them Basij. They raided university dormitories in Tehran, officially killed 7, could be more. Again, many injured, arrested, and there are some who are still missing. The next president was Ahmadinejad. This is when things got really interesting because the nuclear ambitions and building the nuclear facilities in secret started. And then MEK again revealed their nuclear sites, so they had to start negotiating with the West. They openly expressed anti-Semitic agenda, called for the destruction of Israel. It was there before, but it was hidden. It wasn't this loud and clear. They held a Holocaust denial conference and also said that we don't have gays in Iran. So yay! We had Green Movement in 2009. That's when the presidential election between Ahmadinejad and Mousavi happened. Ahmadinejad was elected despite having widespread support for Mousavi. And then mass protests erupted, of course. We had widespread arrest, torture, disappearances, documented at about 150 deaths at least. Considering the disappearances, suicides, accidents, executions, you need to understand that for regime, they only confirmed 36. But when you look at it, it's 150 to 200 people. Tahrizak Detention Center is another name that is edged in our psyche for the rest of eternity. It became notorious as a site of abuse. Tens of thousands were arrested. There were stories of torture and rape coming out. Then in about 2015, they decided that they want to have a joint agreement about the nuclear restrictions, and the US offered sanctions. It's called JCPOA. In 2016, it came into effect, and then the US gave them some relief. It was a temporary agreement, and a lot of critics believe that it helped fund the regime's nuclear and regional ambitions, so it's just getting worse. In November 2019, we had the Bloody November, as we call it. Fuel price hikes sparked nationwide protests. There were peaceful protests, but they turned into calls for regime change and death of the supreme leader very quickly. Security forces reportedly killed up to 1,500 people within 3 days. Internet was shut down. It was radio silent. When they came back, they just said, we have lost 1,500 people, like they're dead. There were mass arrests, executions followed, of course. In 2020, we had COVID-19 happened in Iran. The official report said around 140,000 to 147,000 people died. Considering the excess deaths under different scenarios and circumstances, it's closer to 310,000. So every time the regime gives you a number, double or triple it, just to be safe. COVID vaccine was declared haram. They said it's forbidden to be imported to Iran, so people died, of course. In January 2020, we had PS 752 shoot down. Qasem Soleimani, the child murderer general, was killed by the US. So the regime started targeting US bases in Iraq in retaliation. They shut down the Ukrainian passenger flight minutes after it was taking off. 176 people died on board, mostly Iranian Canadians. The regime lied for 3 days. They said it didn't happen. It's not how it was. And then they said, oh, it was a mistake. Families were harassed for demanding justice. Somebody was told later that it was done to avoid the war with the US. Look, what we do to ourselves. Be careful. Don't come close. That kind of thing. And then in 2020, Mahsa Jina Amini, the 22-year-old, was murdered while she was in custody on September 16th, 2022, which ignited women life freedom protests. 551 verified deaths happened in the first year. There were many injured, arrests, tortured, executions following. Of note, we had the protest in Sistan Baluchistan, the Bloody Friday of Zahedan. During those protests, 100 people were murdered in one day after the Friday prayer. And it was just one of the most atrocious things, one of the most deadliest attacks. And then there was prison fires and cover-ups in Evin at the same time, October 2022. They said it was a riot. At least 8 people were killed. Evin is known for housing political prisoners. So we believe that it was a deliberate purge or cover-up during the protests. And then there's the broader pattern of repression, decades of suppression of Kurds, Baluch, Arabs, Baha'is, other minorities. There is about estimated 100,000 executions since 1979. Last year, we had over 1,000 executed. We have approximately 3 people executed at the morning call to prayer in Iran now. And then the regime maintains power because they have oil. They have censorship, they have the IRGC, there are foreign alliances, Russia and Hezbollah. Now, this is only in Iran. Looking the outside international community, there are so many attacks happening. Of note, 1983, Beirut bombings in Lebanon, 241 US service members, 58 French soldiers were killed. 1992, Israeli embassy bombing in Argentina, 29 killed. 1994, Jewish center bombing in Argentina, 85 killed. There were multiple assassinations of Iranian dissidents, Mykonos restaurant, Freedom Farrokhzad. I don't have time to go in detail, so I'm just naming everything for you guys. You can look it up later. They helped Assad regime keep them in power through murdering Syrian dissidents, civilians. Qasem Soleimani, who I mentioned earlier, he is one of the biggest terrorist arms of the regime. He led IRGC and destroyed whole villages without any remorse. IRGC created Hezbollah in Lebanon. They armed Russia to attack Ukraine, and they also trained Hamas, armed Houthis, and they continue to export regional instability. October 7 happened because of IRGC and because of the Islamic regime. Things that happened throughout this time: US unfroze $8 billion to the regime to release the hostages right after the revolution. They secretly sold weapons to Iran, a country designated a state sponsor of terrorism in Iran-Contra affair. Obama sent a plane full of $400 million cash to Tehran after the Green Movement was crushed. Up to $150 billion of assets were unfrozen for the regime after JCPOA was signed. And now there's a ceasefire, and Trump says China can buy their oil. So that's how they stay in power. Ever since the ceasefire was signed last week, more than 1,000 people have been arrested. Hundreds of thousands of Afghan immigrants have been deported. Some have died on their way out in containers because it's just inhumane the way they are being deported. 10 Baluch women were murdered by IRGC. 3 men were gunned down yesterday. 2 died already. This can go on forever and ever. This is what they've been doing to us for 47 years. And we've been fighting and resisting. This is just the highlights, just to give you a picture of what we've been facing so far. Whew. Sorry, yeah. It's very long.
So that's how we feel too, Sara. It's a lot.
Yeah. So just the highlights. And so yeah. I know I ran through everything. Oh, the MEK is Mujahideen Khalq in Farsi. We call them the People's Mujahideen of Iran, Mujahideen Khalq. Now I remember. Thank you.
So Sara, basically, thank you so much for giving us all of those details. And like you said, there's no way that you can go through everything because there's so much. But essentially what we're looking at is that 47 years ago, Iran was controlled by the Shah, which was your monarchy. And then the Islamic regime came in. It's been nothing but bloodshed and evil and torture ever since then. The Iranian people have fought back multiple times, lost their lives multiple times. And now where we are today, you spoke a little bit about it, but just, give us a picture of what Iran looks like today with, the war with Israel, the war with America. How are the Iranian people feeling about the Shah right now, or about the Shah's son, about Pahlavi? Um, what is your take on the current state of Iran?
Honestly, it's not very hopeful. And I know people want to hope for the best and see things like there's so much pain and there's so much trauma, and people are stuck in this depressive mood that they feel like, what's the point? As soon as we try to do something, we get killed. The US pays them a bunch of money. We go to prison, we get hanged. Why am I doing this? So, and the regime is very smart. Something that we need to consider and we need to think about is that the regime understands how to fight, how to suppress people, how to create distrust. We made an announcement on your Twitter the beginning of the week about me doing this about the regime, and we have more than 250 people calling me names, calling me a whore, calling me
Yeah.
scum, calling me like disgraceful because I'm talking about the regime, and it's a diversion tactic. Look there instead of here. Fight with these people instead of with the regime, just so that we don't know who we're fighting anymore. I'm wasting my energy and my time because I don't like Pahlavi. I don't want to have a king. That's simple. I want to have a secular democracy for my country. At the same time, the regime knows this and they uses this against people, gets us in fights with each other. And what happened with Israel was that they signed JCPOA. They would not follow all the restrictions. They work in secret. We know how they do this. So as soon as they were cleared, Israel started bombing the sites, the nuclear sites. Casualties happen in a war. They've been very specifically trying to avoid that. And personally, I appreciate it because the regime, as I named and numbered, killed thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hundreds of people. So there's no way that you can say, oh, there's no casualties at all whatsoever. There are death casualties. It's war, it happens. And then the ceasefire happened, which was basically the worst outcome for people in Iran, because now over 1,000 people have been arrested because they tweeted about the war, basically, and they are now they face espionage charges, which basically means they'll be executed at some point in the next year or so. People are scared, people are tired, and we get betrayed again and again by everybody, and the opposition is in shambles. We don't have real opposition. That's one of the problems. They know how to play this game. We have opposition inside Iran in prisons. There's no way to contact them. We had internet shut down since yesterday, and everybody's like, what is happening?
So, since there's no opposition, and even though you don't want Iran to become a monarchy, and obviously I agree with you that democracy is better for in general, but why won't you support Pahlavi then? Because he's at least a resistance. He's someone that's uniting at least a resistance against the Islamic regime. Get rid of the Islamic regime first, and then deal with step two later. But can Iranians unite right now under Pahlavi to just get the Islamic regime out? Or do you think that that's not a good strategy?
He doesn't want to get the Islamic regime out. He's happy where he is. He said last year that he would want to rule the country as a king from the US. So he's the king from afar, like a remote
Mm.
king. And he said that he wouldn't want to go back because his life is in the US. He is not serious. If he had the backbone to actually lead us through this, yes, 100%. Go in the grace of God. Do whatever you want to do. I'll fight you if you don't give us a democracy later. But he doesn't want to. Like, he has different campaigns every year. Once he says, I'm going to be your advocate. Once he says, we are going to do, now they're doing MIGA, which is something Trump said. And then 24 hours later, they had a ceasefire. He doesn't
So
actually
tell
want the
us what
regime,
MIGA stands for.
make Iran great again. So the far right nationalist movements are now in power. And he has created this thing that he says now there's this QR code and you can scan it and you can tell me you want to join me, and this is for the IRGC. He keeps saying, I'm in contact with the IRGC. which is like, it's not something to brag about. He wants a coup, basically. And if he
Mhm.
had the backbone to actually do this work, I would 100% support him.
So
We
why
want the
would
regime gone.
he wants a coup and then he wants the regime gone and then he doesn't want to lead?
No, he wants the prestige and the money. He
Okay,
doesn't want to do
that's
the work. It's a
very
lot of
confusing.
work. Yeah, it's a lot of
Okay.
work, and he doesn't want to do the work, actually. He hasn't done the work for 47 years. What has he actually done? I have done more in the past year with you in the podcasts.
Hmm.
I've talked, I've raised awareness, I've done campaigns, I've gone to conferences. He doesn't do it. He just travels and takes photos and says, let's make Iran great again and sign here and I'll be your advocate. And people raised $4 million during Women Life Freedom Uprising. And he said, I'm going to send this money back to Iran to the people who are on a strike, because a lot of people were on strike for the longest time. And then they said, oh, it's not possible to send money to Iran, so we're going to use it ourselves. So they used the money themselves. We don't know where the money went. $4 million. Normal people like me donated to him. And they don't, he doesn't, like there was a coalition, there was a Georgetown coalition with a bunch of other activists, opposition leaders. And he wanted to be the king in that coalition as well. He wanted to rule that coalition. And then they said, no, it's going to be an equal to everybody. He just left. And they created so much disappointment amongst people because people are like, so what's happening now? Who is leading us out of this?
All right, we have a question here from somebody who's asking, is there a way to bring down the Iranian regime through sanctions? Do you think sanctions would work? Or have they
Sanctions
worked in the
are
past?
actually, they have, yes, they have worked greatly if they actually stick to it and don't just say, oh, but it's poor people. No, if you actually do that sanction and actually follow through and not pay the regime millions and millions of dollars, yes, they become weaker. They won't stop, but they become weaker. It's easier to diminish them and to remove them from power.
Okay, we've got a lot of people asking questions in the chat. I beg of you, raise your hands because it's really hard for me to read the chat and listen to Sara at the same time. So just go ahead and raise your hand and ask Sara directly. If you really don't want to raise your hand, you really don't want to be on camera, then I'll try and read your question for you, but it's quite possible that I'll miss it because there's a lot going on there. So we'll start with you, Seth. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask Sara your question.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm a big fan of both of you. Read your book, Yasmine. It was amazing. Highly recommended. So, Sara, I guess you answered a lot of what I wanted to ask, but I was curious. You know, so first of all, I'm a Zionist religious Jew. Grew up in LA. Had lots of Persian classmates who had all left Iran as very young kids after the revolution, and some of them left family members behind and left everything to escape and finally make their way to LA. And they did talk about the Shah in sort of glowing terms, and I imagine it's a very low bar when you're comparing it to the Iranian Islamic regime. So there might have been some rose-colored glasses there, but I'm curious. Yasmine, you've talked about in previous podcasts how you think that for real change to happen in the Middle East, in most countries it needs to be top down and it needs to be sort of authoritarian, because those are a lot of the cultures. I know Iranian culture doesn't exactly jive with that, but I'm curious, Sara, as to what you think. Do you think you could go immediately into a democracy? And also, I've listened to a podcast and an interview with Reza Pahlavi where he talked about that he basically just wanted to be a caretaker until he could have democratic elections and sort of be a caretaker for the transition. I can't judge how genuine that actually is. The other part that I feel like is a big sort of mystery is that a lot of the experts that I hear from and heads of state and people that are involved in negotiations, they sort of talk around resistance in Iran. It makes me think that there's a lot of contact going on behind the scenes with various elements that just, it makes sense not to talk about that publicly. And I'm not saying, so if you know, you should say it publicly, but like, is all that happening, or do you feel that that stuff really isn't happening, or isn't strong, or isn't the way that you want it to go? And then one last thing, if it's not complicated enough, how do you think, so you talked about sanctions, like where do you see, how does the regime fall, right? Like what's the roadmap to that happening without there being quote unquote regime change, boots on the ground from the US and Israel and things like that? So I know I threw a lot at you, but thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, I will try to remember and answer all of them. If I forget, you can remind me later. The first thing you asked about Pahlavi, you need to realize that the way he speaks in Persian and the way he speaks in English are two different things. He's double-faced. It's not trustworthy. The way he expresses things. He's never had a real conversation with people. He would never sit here and answer your questions. He'll never talk to a real journalist. Every single conversation that he's had over the past 47 years, it's people who are on his side through the channels that he approves. He'll get all the questions approved beforehand. He'll never respond to a real serious questions about regime change, for example. Not in Farsi. It's very different the way he speaks in two languages. He talks about wanting to be, I don't know, just to help move from one system to another. I don't trust him. I don't trust him because everybody who's around him at this point is people who have defected from Iran, from the regime, and they are mostly reformists. And the regime has a long history of creating this puppet. Oh, this is the reform that we are having. We had it with Khatami, we had it with Mousavi, we have it now with Pahlavi. They just bring up this puppet. Oh, look at this shiny thing here. We are doing reform and this is a hope you can get. And then they crush it. And people stop reacting. People stop going out. People stop asking for more because we are basically depressed. We are a depressed nation. And every time we try, we are just crushed again and again. So you need to keep in mind that he doesn't speak the same way he talks to you guys, that he talks to me. And you saw the reaction. Again, look at the reaction on Yasmine's post. These are his followers. They have already started the Sabak, which is the police, the secret police again. And they are writing down our names just because I say I don't want a king over myself. I don't know if you know Goldi Ghamari. She is one of the MPs here in Canada. She was ousted from the Conservative Party because she had a conversation with Tommy Robinson, I think, or somebody else. But the truth of the matter is he was ousted because we had to make official complaints about her. She would threaten us on Twitter, basically, because I said, I don't want to have a king. And she kept saying, oh, your Canadian passport should be revoked. You should not be a Canadian because this is I get to have my opinions. And she kept saying, but you should not be a Canadian. Your passport should be revoked. Like the police should arrest you. So these are the kind of people that follow him. That's the kind of mentality. They don't understand plurality. They don't understand many different aspects. They don't understand freedom of expression. I want to be offensive. I want my freedom of expression to be offensive. I want to offend for the rest of my life. And these people do not understand it. And I don't want that in my country. We already have it. We have a king. He's wearing a turban. Now we're going to have a king with a crown again. We've been trying to get democracy for about 100 years in Iran. We've had different kinds of revolutions. We've had different kinds of wars. I think it's time for Iranians to have that democracy. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I know that they don't want the regime change. Basically, in the West, they don't want to have this regime change in Iran because it's easier. This is the enemy, you know. They want the stability in the region. The change might be too unstable for them to face, and we are not worth it. People in Iran are not worth that kind of risk because the oil is important. They would always put oil above every single one of us. You had another question. I don't remember the last one.
It was about, because I want to hear the answer too. It's about how I've stated Arab countries can't go straight from a dictatorship to a democracy. So as you just described, they want to go from a king with a turban to a king with a crown. But do you think that there is space for democracy right now? Do you think that it's realistic? Or do you think that as Pahlavi was saying, there needs to be a span of time where he can be the caretaker, where people can, I don't know, start to get used to the idea of individualistic, critical thinking, democratic ideas. It's a big, huge step.
You mentioned this, Yasmin, in one of your interviews before as well. The Iranian people are not the people in Iraq. They're not the people in Syria. They're not the people in Afghanistan. We've been fighting for over 100 years to have this democracy. We've been ready for more than 100 years. We want this democracy. We deserve this democracy. What if we mess up? The US elected Trump for the second time, and nobody's revoking their democracy card. They still go back and vote.
Look
Why are we?
Look what we
Look at
did with
Canada.
Trudeau or with the Liberal
Exactly.
government. Yeah.
Thank you. So why are we less of humans in Iran? Why don't we get that kind of treatment? Let us mess up. Let us learn. Let us practice true democracy. And in 100 years, I promise you, we'll surpass every single Western nation. Like the US has had like 300, 400 years of democracy now. Look at where they are now. Look at what Canada did in the past election. Give us a chance. Let us try. If we mess up, we learn from our mistakes. We are really smart people. I promise you. And if it's messy, it's messy. Revolutions are messy. It's better than being tortured. We've been
Well,
like
there's
I
no
always
question
say,
it's going to be messy. I mean, South Africa is just now still
yes,
reeling from, its post-apartheid world. So it's
yes,
it does take time for people to, you're completely changing the entire structure of the country. And it's going to probably take generations before things start to settle down. So, it would be completely unrealistic to expect that things would just go smoothly. And I think a lot of the fear, because they've seen it happen in so many Arab countries in the past, a lot of the fear is that if you let people choose, they're going to choose the jihadi. Whoever, that's how the Islamic regime came into power to begin with, right? And it's like if you give people the option, that's what they're going to take. And I think that you're kind of dealing with the mistakes that all of these Arab Muslim countries have made, because people don't really see the vast difference between Persians and Arabs. They just see them as Muslims. And they're not recognizing that we're talking about chalk and cheese here, folks. It's not the same thing.
exactly.
Most Iranian people hate Islam. Not that they're just not Muslim. They hate Islam. They have been living under the boot of this theocracy for all of these years. So I'm sure they're not going to be choosing another Islamic regime, another, any kind of jihadi type thing. But however, mistakes could be made with whoever gets chosen. And then like what happened in South Africa, even the people that get chosen have to figure out, what does this mean? We've never had a democracy before. We don't know, like you're building the airplane as you're flying it. So it's asking a lot of whoever is going to take that position.
Absolutely. Here's the thing. I've said this before on your podcast as well, and I say it everywhere I go. I'm 43 years old. I feel like I've been fighting the regime for 47 years. This is how long we've been fighting this fight. It's not something that just happened after, I don't know, Mahsa Jina Amini. Didn't happen just after October 7th. I know a lot of people joined this fight after. It's been happening. It's in our blood. And this is something we've been fighting for almost a century. We deserve to have this democracy. We deserve to practice it. We deserve to be free. And yes, somebody will mess up. Things will happen. But at least it will be a mistake that we can fix. We can own it. And we know that it's not going to be somebody who's in charge for the next 40 years. 4 years later, we can try again. 4 years after, we can try again. That's not something that happens with Pahlavi, because he'll come in power, he'll stay in power. He doesn't want to move. And then we are going back and we are going to have another revolution again, and we are going to have to get killed again. It's exhausting.
Katya made a really great point. Katya, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this properly. So do you want to unmute yourself and just read your comment? She says it's not only about the Middle East. Okay, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, when you said that it happens to a lot of Middle Eastern countries. It's not only about Middle East, because Russians got Putin almost after Perestroika, and I mean we still have them. And where are we now, like with him? And it began pretty much like a democracy, but after 8 years we couldn't get rid of it. I mean, if at that time we had like that much courage as Iranian people, maybe it would be a different story. But I guess to that point, Russian people were already exhausted after Sara. So maybe that's the reason, I don't know.
And it makes sense. Thank you for that comment, Katya. Sorry, Yasmin, before I forget, people keep saying, we have a revolution, we have a democracy run, we have elections, we have all of these things, they messed up. No, it's not a real democracy in Iran. It's not, because it says republic in the name, it's not a republic. It's Islamic State. It's Islamic regime. That's why we call it Islamic regime and not even Iran. That's why we make that distinction between the two things. The Islamic regime has taken Iran hostage. The same way Putin has taken Russia hostage. It's not a democracy. It's not a revolution. There's no elections. They just pick a name out of the hat and say, this person represents the supreme leader. Go deal with it. And then 4 years later, another person. There's no real true democracy happening.
No, of course not. So I'm going to let Courtney ask her question next. It's one that I've heard so many times and frustrates me to no end, which is about people saying, why don't the Iranian people stand up and fight for their country? It's like, what do you think they have been doing for the past half a century? Like, their bodies are littered all over the country. Literally, that's what they do. The regime mows them down and just leaves their bodies. And like Sara was explaining, they will charge their families the cost of the bullet that they just killed your child with. So Courtney, go ahead and please ask that question.
Hello, Sara. Hello, Yasmine. Sara, I love you. You're such an amazing human. I'm so happy to be here and supporting you. So I keep getting a lot of questions, and I don't know why they ask me about it, because I don't know what I know. But a lot of Jews and Israelis are like, why aren't the Iranians rising up, especially what is happening right now, like after the Iran-Israel war? They're like, Israel gave them like this stepping stone. Why aren't they rising up? And I just like pretty much want to know like what the revolt would have looked like during the Israel-Iran war if the Iranians had risen up in that moment. And I guess we just don't see a lot of that in Israeli Western media, what these revolts kind of look like. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Thank you for that, Courtney. I'm so happy you're here. I love your face. So here's the thing that happened during the last thing, the war with Israel. People kept saying, oh, why aren't the Iranian people revolt? Like, we don't have the internet. There's a war happening. Israel keeps saying, oh, you have to just leave Tehran, get out. These are the places that people are trying to run out and leave the country and leave Tehran at least to stay safe. And at the same time, people from outside Iran are like, oh, why is nobody fighting? Why is nobody going to the streets? Why is nobody like, do you guys not understand what they are doing to us? Do you guys not see that we've been killed and murdered? Like, okay, this is what happened right after the revolution when they had the executions. There's a tree outside Evin prison that people could see, and they would take people outside on that hill with the tree and they would shoot them. And then they would charge people, their family members, for the bullets to give them the name of the cemetery. That's the history that we are trying to deal with. They thought, oh, this is too much blood. We can't deal with the blood. So they brought in cranes. They hang people by pulling them up from the cranes while they are still, like, it's not like the normal thing that you see as executions in the US movies. People, if I see a crane, all I think about is an execution. If I hear the words Allahu Akbar, if I hear the words of Adhan, all I think about is execution. I think about people being pulled up from cranes. because they are dissidents. Girls, young virgin girls, were raped the night before they were executed because virgins go to hell, to heaven, and they didn't want these virgins to go to heaven. So the IRGC or Basij would go into the prison cell, rape the girls, pay them a little bit of money to say, this is your marriage portion, whatever that means. And then they would kill them the next day. Just think about how, like, if they go back 6 steps and downgrade their cruelty towards the Iranian people, you'll have somebody like Gaddafi or Assad or Saddam Hussein. These people all learned from the regime in Iran. You cannot have a revolution and a war happening simultaneously. You can't bomb people and say, go out on the street and fight against the mullahs. That's not going to work. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, people tried. We've been trying for 47 years. We get killed. We get executed for our freedom. The US comes back and says, here's a couple of $2 billion for your tries and efforts, and use this money however you like. It doesn't matter that you're killing your people. We don't care. Nobody looks at our humanity. Woman life freedom was this close to winning. And then Pahlavi said, I don't want to do the coalition. I'm done. I'm out. He created that kind of disappointment, and he told people, go home, don't get killed on the streets. I'm in conversation with IRGC. They're going to give me a coup any minute.
Yeah.
So he has created this kind of, like, and people are tired of getting murdered at this point. Like, what's the point? I go out, I yell, I scream, I get shot at, people get blinded, people get killed. Like, it, for us, and I know I'm being very pessimistic and very like doom and gloom, we are not going to stop fighting. We are not going to stop screaming and yelling. And this is part of my life now. It's resistance. I'm doomed to fight back for the rest of my life. It's not a choice. I can't be silent. It's not a choice. So the revolution would look like something what happened during woman life freedom, but maybe to the power of 10, because we don't have guns. And they have guns, and they kill us so easily and so quickly, and they torture us, and they arrest us, and they disappear us. It helped a lot what Israel did, because none of them, I told Yasmin at one point, none of these people have died on their own. The regime kills people inside the regime. The only person who actually died was Khomeini. He died of natural causes. Ever since then, they killed Rafsanjani, they killed Khomeini's son and grandson, I think. Like, they keep killing each other because there's infighting, but they don't die of natural causes. And Israel killing them gave us so much hope that they actually die. There's an end to this. But we need outside support. We need people to talk to their governments, to tell them to stop giving them money, to stop funding the regime, because that's basically what they're doing.
And the short-sightedness of thinking you're just funding the regime, and it's only Iranian people that are going to get hurt. Well, they funded October 7th. So you're paying for your own death.
Thank you.
Sorry to cut you off, Courtney. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that when people message me these things, my personal opinion is, like, how would you rise up in a handmade style, like, world, like the Handmaid's Tale? Like, that is what the Handmaid's Tale was based off. Like, how would you rise up? Because
isn't there gaslighting, Courtney? Don't you really see the gaslighting here of, like, they're giving $6 billion to the Iranian regime with one hand, and then with the other hand, they're like, why aren't you guys rising up?
Oh, totally. Like, and I personally believe, I'm like, you know, America has helped so many nations try, like, liberate themselves, not in the best way. But I'm like, why is Iran not deserving of that help to try liberate themselves? Why is Iran, like, why are the Iranians and the Persians so different from everyone else that America wants to help? Because there's power and money, and it's just a load of bullshit, really, in my own opinion.
Yes.
So frankly, like, I tell all these Israelis and Jews, I'm like, we can't comprehend what it's like to live under that dictatorship. So I, for one, don't know if I would be able to revolt knowing I will be hanged from a crane or raped in a prison. So like that's my own personal opinion. But thank you, Sarah, for answering that question.
Thank you, Courtney. I really appreciate the question. It's something people keep asking and they don't understand the reality of the situation. And no matter how much we explain, like I talked to you for about 20 minutes at the beginning about our resistance and then killing us, our resistance. So it's 20 minutes of just numbers that you can go through. It's a lot of information. Just feed that to your chat GPT or Grok or whatever you use, whatever Google you do. Like try to go through all that information and see how many people have actually been murdered by this regime throughout this past 47 years. And then think about your country, think about your nation, think about what would you do in that situation while everybody else in the world is gaslighting you and giving money to the people who are killing you. Let's see how you would react in that situation.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Yasmine.
Of course. Thank you, Courtney. All right, Goldie, you go ahead. You wrote a paragraph for me here that I didn't have time to read, but it looks like a great response to the conversation. Yeah. Go ahead.
Things. I think what the West is like, when I hear them say that, or Israel, like, why aren't they rising up or whatever, whether or not you're wrong, what I'm hearing, at least to translate, is more, I know you've been doing it alone and you've been revolting and it's terrible and it's risky, but we're telling you this time, right now, if you revolt, we'll back you. You won't be alone this time. That's different. We will give you cover, bomb, air, and go now. We're here. It's different than alone. Now, again, whether do you believe them and can I fault people for going, well, we're exhausted and we can't, but I think just to explain, that's what I'm hearing. I know, but this time is different. It's different than doing it alone. So that's the first thing. I could breathe, but then I had a bunch of things that I wrote.
Let her answer that, and then we'll come back to you for your other stuff.
Thank you, Yasmine. I don't believe it's different, Goldie. I appreciate that. I understand that. I really, really do appreciate it. And by the way, people, Goldie is going to be on Yasmine's show tomorrow. We're going to have a completely different conversation with her.
Don't get sick of me yet.
Just plugging her in here, just doing my thing. But the thing is, I don't believe that, Goldie, because historically, look at historically, and they don't want a regime change. They are happy with their, yes. People
got excited when Israel started bombing Iran. We were all excited, but cautiously excited.
Yes. And that's the thing.
Look, ceasefire 5 minutes later.
Right. And you're right.
Sarah.
The US may not be able to do it. They fucked over the Ukrainians. And
it's not even about the Ukrainians, Goldie. You don't need parallels. Look at what they have done to Iran. Look at what they have done to Iran in this. The West doesn't want regime change. They are happy with what they got. They want the regime to be weak and in control, controlled and powerless. They want to control. It's much easier to have this regime controlled than having this thriving nation that wants to set prices higher for the oil or wants to have its own control and power over. They don't want us to have our own control. And historically, they have not done it. They have paid money to the West, to the regime. Historically, look at all the money that they have paid.
Yeah.
We had the Green Movement. Millions of people were out on the street. What did they do? Obama filled his plane full of cash and sent it to them. Why would I believe them now? And Trump is like, now China can go buy their oil. So what happened this time? It's no. And people in Iran have lost their trust. We don't believe anybody anymore. Yeah. Nobody cares. Nobody other than Yasmine, probably. So
and us. But
I don't have the
you guys.
A bunch of things to say, and you can respond to as little as bit as it out, so we can move it along. But one of the things about democracy, and it's half me playing devil's advocate and half me actually wondering, is that when you compare to the US and you said, let us make our mistakes. And as other people mentioned, they're scared that, we did that with, let's say, Gaza, and they voted in Hamas. Now, I'm going to ask you, what is the polling? When you say, let us have our democracy, what do we know how much support democracy and what doesn't? Because the US and Canada and even Israel, when you look at their foundations, I often have a theory that we are our foundation. It's the house. Mm-hmm. They started as that. That was the revolution. We are going to start as democracy. You're asking for basically a mass conversion. It's almost like a religion. And that's what Yasmine was saying. You're asking what did you say? To build the plane as you're doing it. And I thought that's a good analogy. And it can work. but you're taking a massive risk. So I was curious. You keep saying, this is what we want. Do we know that? Do we have polling? Like when they poll Palestinian, I keep bringing it back to that. But sadly, because people are like, oh, they'll vote well. No, they're quite in support of Hamas. It's according to polls. Of course, polls could be whatever.
Okay, I'm going to respond to this one. Have you seen the videos of women in Tehran, in Isfahan, in Shiraz, walking around without veil? Do you understand that this is that's protest? That they get killed, they get arrested.
Are they the majority?
Does it really matter? Do you want, like, out of the 90 million people, do you want 80 million people to be against?
No, but enough that they could stick.
It was enough to stick because people were out for a whole year. Right. 500 people got killed.
You're right, that's incredible.
Thousands were arrested. They are still in prison. Nobody talks about this anymore. And the fact that we sit here and say, well, they voted Hamas in, and we haven't voted for anybody. It's not the same. We are not the same. That's not fair to just compare us to Iraq and to just compare us. Like, we are getting punished because somebody else wanted to have a regime in charge, and maybe they didn't even understand what they were voting for. Maybe they did. I don't know. I'm not Palestinian. I don't understand the mentality behind it. But it's the same thing that happened with the revolution. The leftists and trade unionists and all the dissidents thought, oh, these Islamists, power, whatever, they have control. They have some sort of money and control and power. We are going to join hands. We are going to work together. We are going to remove the regime. We are going to have a real democracy. And then they got killed.
Right.
They got murdered. It's not like we voted them in.
Right.
They took the country hostage. Look at how women are still fighting in Iran, even though there's no support from the outside world. Right. We talked about women life freedom. We talked about removing our hijab, and we get called Islamophobic. We get called silence. Why? People in Iran did not get any form of support. Women in Iran do not get any form of support other than groups like this. Yes, at the government level, we are completely erased if we are lucky. And it's not fair to compare us to other countries in the region. We've been fighting for 100 years. You guys keep making mistakes with your democracy. I don't see anybody removing your democracy card and say, well, you voted Trump in twice. That's enough for you guys. Now you have to have a king. Yeah. This is a dictator that's going to rule over your country until you learn your lesson and don't cause mayhem in the world. Yeah. Why are we less of humans in your eyes?
The Western world views you. There's a realpolitik thing when you study that they're not capable of democracy. The East, it didn't come from them, and there's some.
This is all true, but let's not, we can't ignore the gaslighting again. We can't ignore the interference. Like, you can believe that, you can say that, but you are funding them. Right. Whether you are funding Hamas through UNRWA or whether you are funding the Islamic regime of Iran, you are paying them. You are supporting. You are funding the Taliban, for fuck's sake. You are funding these groups, and then you're blaming the people and saying, they're not rising up. They're not ready for democracy. Like, what is happening? Like, you're literally tying our hands behind our backs and then saying, why aren't you clapping? What's wrong with you? You're not capable.
Well, I think what you both have said, Sara, you said, the West, they're seeing, we still have that thing where Persians, Arabs, people don't even understand the difference. So I think you are dealing a lot with that. But the other thing I want to say real quick, as much as I can. So with the Israel, exactly, why don't they want them to rise up? I've wondered, would Israel want, even as much as I want this, I hope this is not the answer, but would Israel want Iran to be overthrown? Because how does that upset the Sunni Arab alliances? Could they, without the IRGC, would they be able to make allies with, because Saudi Arabia and Iran have always been like, we're the leaders of the Muslim world. Would that rivalry still exist without them? And would that upset the Abraham Accords, all of this? And I was wondering, can they even support this? You're playing like a dangerous game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know from Israel's point of view. I can tell you from the IRGC point of view, as soon as they got the $6 billion from Biden, October 7 happened, because Israel was talking to the Sunni world with Saudi Arabia and UAE. They were working on the Abraham Accords. So the IRGC doesn't want it.
Right.
The Islamic regime doesn't. I don't know if Israel wants it or not.
Does Iran want it? Just
the Iranians and Islamic regime are two different things.
Right, that's what I'm asking. The Iranians, the Persians.
The Iranians love Israel.
Okay.
They love Jewish people. They love any form of dissidence because they can be. I feel like I am one of you guys. That's what I feel like. That's most of us when we do something, when we talk, when we speak up, we feel like, oh, we are dissidents. Any form of dissent, we identify with it. We like it. We praise it. That's why I'm saying Iran is not like the other countries in the region, because we've been fighting for so long, it's in our blood now. I can just not fight. That's the problem. People in Iran do not feel the same way. And again, I know it sounds awful to say it. I don't know, maybe the Arab world is just used to having this kind of culture. Maybe we've been colonized. We've been fighting for 1400 years. This is in our genes now. It's not something that happened 100 years ago. And I don't know what Israel wants. I know they want peace with the Arab world. I don't know what they want with Iran.
And maybe if the Arabs want it, would they allow
maybe.
The Arabs, look what happened when Iran started bombing Israel. Did you see any Arabs join in? Did you see any Arabs care? In fact, Saudi Arabia was the one that was stopping the Israeli bombs from reaching Israel. And so was Jordan. Sunnis, they don't want Iran to succeed. Iran has been killing people in Syria, been killing people in Iran, been killing people in Palestine,
Yemen.
been killing people everywhere.
So they would support a free Iran, you think?
I don't know if they necessarily even care about a free Iran or not, but they would support the Islamic regime falling because they see them as their enemy as well. But they're not going to say it because it's still, at the end of the day, my brother and me against the enemy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The enemy of your enemy is your friend. So they're still Sunni and Shia. They're still both Muslim. So they're not going to say it out loud. But of course, no, they do not support the Islamic regime of Iran.
Yeah. And the regime only survives in chaos. That's something you have to remember. It's like a disease. They cannot thrive in a normal, calm, controlled situation. That's why they are always against peace. That's why as soon as Saudi Arabia was signing the Abraham Accord, they can't take it because it would anything that's disabled, they like it.
The Shia mindset is different from the Sunni mindset in this sense.
Yes.
That the Sunnis do want stabilization. They will make peace with Israel if it means it's going to financially benefit them, right?
Yes.
But this Shia theocracy are not interested in anything except for the destruction of this world, right? That's all they care about. They want to bring the end days. That's what their religion is encouraging to happen.
Exactly.
Thank you. I'll let someone else.
Thank you, Goldie.
It's so complicated and there's so many pieces, but thank you so much, Sara, for helping to clarify all of these bits.
My pleasure.
Salvador, you're next.
Hello, Sara.
Hi.
Hi. My question is, if you think that maybe the ethnic minorities would help bring down the Islamic regime, like Kurds, Azeris, Balochi, Arabs. Because I saw a video, like analysis video, about how Israel bombed a bunch of IRGC posts in those regions, like the Kurdish region, some of the Azeri regions of Khuzestan. And it was like to weaken the regime. So do you think that this could help or no?
It would definitely, there are a bunch of different things to consider at the same time. The Baluch, for example, and the Kurdish people are both Sunnis. That's one reason the regime hates them so much. And they've been fighting from the very, very, very beginning. They've been fighting, especially the Kurds and the Baluch, not all the other minorities, but these two groups have been fighting the regime. Whether it's just armed fights or through different, like strikes, for example. Gina Mahsa Amini was Kurdish. That's one of the main reasons woman life freedom started. The words woman life freedom, Janjian Azadi, comes from the Kurdish language and the Kurdish culture. It's all about resistance. And they've been fighting the regime from the beginning. They've been trying to destabilize the regime from the beginning. But again, look at this. They get oppressed. They get murdered, brutally murdered. There are bombs dropped on their regions. They don't get education. They don't get, Baluch, for example, they don't have birth certificates in Iran. They are Iranians. They are born in Iran, but they don't get birth certificates. So they can't go to university. They can't get government jobs. This is by design to keep them also weak and not in control of their own regions, because the regime understands. They try to keep all these people under control, but they've been fighting. They've been resisting. The Baha'is are the same. It's all of them. When I say it's in our blood, being dissidents, all of them, they're part of this.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Melissa, you're next.
Thank you, Yasmine. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for clarifying about the king, because I've been hearing a lot or seeing a lot online support for the king, but it seems to be coming from a lot of Iranians in the US or outside of Iran. That's what I'm seeing. I obviously don't see Persian language social media. But I just wanted to say more of a comment. I am South African, and I think apartheid ended here because of money. It was when the government was broke that they were willing to again negotiate. And so it does have to do with the money. That is what brought them to the negotiating table. And then there was a coalition waiting. The ANC did then take the lead. But yes, we're still learning, we're still struggling. It's a bit sad that you don't have that coalition, but you do you do need the international community to step in and not fund them more. And we do support you. Something that bothers me greatly is that people in my country don't seem to understand that there is a difference between Iranians and the regime, and that they don't support the regime. I was very annoyed the other day. I saw on Twitter people were celebrating that Iran is bombing Israel, and they were toasting in restaurants to the fact that Iran is bombing Israel, because Israel is now the big bad guy, and so now they're on the side and don't understand that they're on the wrong side. But you have my support. I don't know what little I can do, but I will do what I can. And that's just my comment that I want to make. And thank you very much for this history lesson, because I'm ashamed to admit that I didn't understand that Khomeini and the one with an A are actually two different people until recently. But
Khomeini and Khamenei, yes.
I mean, there's like a slight variation in one of the vowels.
Yeah.
So,
and one of them is dead, and one of them we hope would be dead soon. So it's just, yeah. Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So something you mentioned about apartheid. I'm one of the members of United Against Gender Apartheid campaign, so is Yasmine. And I worked with the campaign right from the very beginning. And we looked at what happened in apartheid in South Africa. We looked at how the government was destabilized and how it was criminalized. And we've been trying to make gender apartheid criminalized. This is there's a whole different aspect of there are about 20 different aspects of things that I did not talk about. Like the way women are being oppressed, the way women are treated as a second-class citizen and have been legally, systemically, culturally for 47 years. And as Yasmine said, when the revolution happens, when the regime goes, because we are doomed to succeed, there's no way out of this. Whenever it happens, then we have to rebuild and we have to educate and we have to teach people that actually apartheid and gender apartheid is not good. It's not a cool thing. You can't systemically you cannot systemically oppress women as half men. Hijab should not be something that, look at another way that the West, for example, betrays us. They have World Hijab Day. And the regime uses that. And the regime says, oh, look, they're celebrating the hijab. You guys should be thankful that you're wearing it. Anybody who takes off their hijab, why are you doing that? When we have people like we have members of parliament from Europe going to Iran on trips wearing the chador. There was this woman who went from Europe went to Iran right in the middle of Women Life Freedom movement, and she had her hijab on and she had her chador and her pictures were widespread. Do you know how they use that against Iranian women? Like all these politicians. Why do you do that? Go, take off your hijab. You can do that. Stand in support. Don't tell us that we are Islamophobic for burning our hijab. You need to understand that women in Iran have been living as a second-class citizen. We don't have the right to our passports or travel. We don't have rights to education. We don't have a right to jobs. We can't divorce our husbands. We don't consent. So marital rape doesn't exist. I belong to my husband. He can do whatever he wants to my body. Honor killing is just very random, normal. It happens every day. There's at least one or two names coming up. Oh, this woman was murdered by her husband. This woman was murdered by her brother. This woman was murdered by her father. She dishonored them. They just killed her. Like, it's so normalized. The misogyny in that country is so normalized. And we like to say, no, it's different. And men are not a part of it and men are fighting back. But still, it's part of the fabric of the culture of the country.
No, I can imagine, like, our country is still, we're a very violent country right now. But psychologists have said it's because of the trauma that is in our blood.
Exactly.
And it comes through in how you're attacked when they want to steal your car, or how they attack you in a house break-in. But our country needs
or how
to
women
heal
are
from
attacked
that.
there.
We'll also have to heal from that.
Yes.
Going through.
Yes.
But first, we need to get you free. And then we can deal with the rest.
Absolutely. That's the first step. We need to make Westerners understand that, oh, this oppression and misogyny is not normal. Just because it's happening over there to those brown people, hijab is not a cultural thing. Stop calling it cultural. And even if it's cultural, not all cultures deserve to be respected. Misogyny does not deserve your respect. Stop dehumanizing us further and further. Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, this is so great that we have like Russians and South Africans and Israelis here representing. This is so wonderful. Yeah. Now, Katya, you're next.
I just listened to what you just said about Western people abandoning you. I just recently saw on Instagram some posts shared by women from France, queer women from France. And there was Trump, there was Putin, and there was Netanyahu. And the post said, like, the decisions of those, like, three people will impact our future, something like that. And there was no one from Middle East. No one from regime of Iran or something. And it's just like at the same time, they like dehumanize you and like don't give any accountability to them, like to those governments. I'm just crazy. And also, I'm not sure if it's even a question because it's like a little bit contradicts itself. But I heard a lot about that you never know when a regime could fall, like after USSR, after Assad, and after, like, yesterday it was powerful and horrifying, and tomorrow it suddenly fall. How do you think if it's possible soon? Maybe.
I would love to think it's possible and it's going to happen tomorrow. Despite all the pessimism and all the doom and gloom here for the past hour and something, I would love to do that. I would just think that's when I can just say, I'm done. I can rest now. I'm done. And that moment is just, there's this Twitter account and that posts things in Persian. I don't know if it would be something that would be interesting for you guys, but it goes back into the historical memory of whatever's happened in Iran and takes out different things. And for the past couple of days, they've been posting the videos of Gaddafi and Khomeini, videos of Saddam Hussein and Khamenei when he comes out of hiding, because he's been in hiding for the past month, ever since the last war started. So there's this comparison. I'm like, he's gonna die. He's gonna die, and he looks so frail, and he looks so. And then you look at that last moment of Gaddafi, you look at last moment of Saddam Hussein, and you think he's gonna die. But yes, somebody else will replace him, and we'll have to continue the fight. But he's gonna die, and it's gonna be the end of him. And that's the only thing that keeps us going, because these people, they will die eventually. The regime might continue, and then we'll have to fight some more, but the regime will fall too. We are doomed to try, and we are doomed to win, Katya. My people and your people.
Yeah. With people who are so vicious and so tyrannical, this is a really good point, Sarah. Just remember that they are just mere mortals, and they will die. That's really good, because I'm sure it just must feel like they're like some demonic superhuman power, but not the case. This is They are old
Exactly.
men. Yeah. Lori,
just
you're
quickly,
next. Sorry, Katya.
Yeah, just like because I'm literally like a little bit confused about my identity, because I'm from Russia, but I'm also Israeli. I'm like Jewish, and I'm like who I am. I live in the third country. It's like what's happening? But when I listen to your story about Iran, it's just like revoke in me this, I'm just like, be in Russia. It just
You're a
similar.
dissident.
It's the same.
This is who you are. You are a dissident.
Yeah.
You are a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
You are a resistor.
And this is your home.
Exactly. You're one of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Katya.
Lori, go ahead, please.
Sara, I am in awe of you.
Thank you.
I'm OG, 60 plus. I remember holding the first feminist magazine, and I'm so ashamed of women not speaking up, women who call themselves feminists, and they're aligning with male-centered behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not hearing your screams for freedom, and they're seeing the hijab as being liberated. Where did you get your strength from, my dear? I am in awe of you.
You're making me emotional, Lori. I promised myself
I'm emotional
cry.
here.
I promised myself I would not cry today. I cry every single time.
I don't know. The woman who wore barely no clothing, she took off her clothing, waiting.
Ahu Daryai. Yeah.
I won't forget her face. Where do you get your strength from?
The dead. I get my strength from the dead, Lori. There are so many people who have died. Atefe Sahale was 16 when they hanged her from a crane for indecent behavior. She was being raped for 3 years, from 13 to 16, by a former IRGC member. The judge deemed her responsible and sentenced her to death. They killed her. She was 16 fucking years old. Every year on the day of her death, I cry. That's a hole in my soul that will never, like, I can work on healing and trauma. It will never go away. July 11th, Zahra Ziba, what was her last name? I'm so emotional, I don't remember. She was a Canadian reporter. She went to Iran, took pictures of Evin prison. And Zahra Ziba Kazemi, sorry. She was taking pictures of prison, Evin prison. They took her camera. They told her to take out the film and they would let her go. She said no. They tortured her, pulled her fingernails, raped her, gave her body back to the Canadian government. She was an Iranian-Canadian journalist. There are names after Nida Sultan was murdered on the street. Like, there are names after names after names after names. Mona Haydari was 17 when her husband beheaded her. Walked around the city with her head. I'm sorry, this is just some details.
You have to go there. You have to go there.
But these are the names. I'm so tired of dying. That's all I can tell you at this point. I'm tired of dying because I keep dying with these people. And every anniversary and every year, there are names that are coming. Like, Mona Haydari likes to be called Ghazal. And she was married to her cousin when she was 12. She had a 3-year-old son at the age of 17 when the husband beheaded her. Mobina Suri, Romina Ashrafi. There are names after names after, like, there's no way I can forget. I can't just say I'm done. I'm carrying these names. Somebody needs to be the witness. It's not courage. It's not a choice.
No, this is running through your blood now. I'm understanding. This is running through your blood. This is what you're living for. I'm just ashamed. My mother said the first time she saw Obama, she said, he is not good, Lori. And yes, all that money that was sent over to Iran. I will continue to speak up and ask women, please speak up. Please.
Or at least don't silence us and crush us and tell us that we're Islamophobic and that we're bigoted and that we are race traitors and that we're native informants and that we're full of self-hate. And, you know, if you don't want to support us, at least don't silence us. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't want to reach your hand in and pull us out of the water that's drowning us, at least don't reach your hand in to hold our heads under the water. At least don't do that.
Just be quiet. Just be quiet and
let us fight. Let us fight. Nikasha Karami was 16. Sorry, no, Ismailzadeh was 6. Like, I can name names for the next hour and I'll still have names. When I was preparing that thing to read for the first 20 minutes, I kept thinking there are so many names. I can't just name one and not the other. So I just did not name anybody other than Jina Mahsa Amini because she started the revolution for us. But women are getting killed in Iran.
And when we had the Women Life Freedom movement, feminists in the West were afraid to speak up in support of it because it could be misconstrued as Islamophobic. You had a choice between supporting women and supporting the Islamic regime of Iran, and they were like confused what they should do.
I cannot understand, why do they not listen to the women of Iran? They're telling them but they think some of the Western women think they know better.
Yes, they do.
Sheer arrogance. Listen.
Absolutely.
Okay, listen to the story. And sometimes I wonder, do they have the ability to put themselves in other people's shoes? How would you feel? You're telling people to rise up. How many times rise up? Mm-hmm. How many times? Well, you know, it's a lot of people are saying for other people to rise up, they won't do it themselves. Mm-hmm. So they're talking that shit. Well, I have to go there. I'm just like loving Sarah. Thank you, dear. I'm going to stop now because I'm going to get emotional.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate it. The fact that this is a choice between, I don't want to get called names, and I'm literally getting killed in my own country. I don't understand the Western women either. I expected them to at least not silence us, because when I came to Canada and I was called Islamophobic and a fascist and extremist, and I didn't understand my experiences, and I waited for them to explain. For about 10 years, I thought, okay, I'm a savage. I'm from a third world country. I'm from Middle East. I was never given this proper education in a first world country. So maybe it's just me. Tell me why hijab is a cultural thing and not oppression. Tell me why it's okay for me to be treated as a second-class citizen and to have a male guardian who decides everything for me. Explain to me in simple English so that I understand. And nobody could. And then when women life freedom movement started and I started talking and Yasmine found me, and it's just this miracle is happening in my life that somebody understands, somebody listens, somebody sees me as human. And I'm talking, and the more I talk, the more people listen and the more people want to learn and understand. But it's still mind-boggling to me that why don't you see us as human? What are you afraid of? They call you Islamophobic? Is that like the extent, that's the threshold for you guys?
They care more about themselves than about really
Yes.
about. It's
Yes.
really about them.
Yes, exactly. It's about them. Exactly. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Stay strong, okay? I'll keep
Thank
fighting
you.
what I do.
Thank you.
And it needs to be said that it's not just Iranian women that are ignored, or ex-Muslim women or Arab women. They ignore their own sisters and daughters and mothers, right? Like don't forget about all of the Rotherham rape gangs, all of the rape gangs all across the UK, the thousands of young girls that were caught in those Pakistani rape gangs for decades. And anybody who spoke up against it, journalists, politicians, Rape Crisis Center founders and leaders, all of these people lost their jobs. They were ostracized, they were attacked, they were ridiculed, they were completely demonized because they dared to say these young girls are being drugged and systemically raped by these Pakistani men. How dare you? How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you say the truth? Because these men they're just little brown minority men. So we can't talk about it. And so they left these girls to continue to be tortured, suffering for decades, lost their childhoods, lost the rest of their lives. How do you heal from that? So this wanting to put themselves first, in the beginning, I used to think that it was just like a really viciously cruel form of racism where they truly didn't see us as human, like you were saying, Sarah. But they don't see anybody else as human either. They don't even see themselves as human. They would rather get their necks cut off than have someone call them Islamophobic or racist or bigoted. Like they think that, like you said, Sarah, they think that that is the worst thing that could possibly happen. They don't realize that this support, this even using the word Islamophobia, by them being the useful idiots, what they are supporting is their own demise.
Yes.
They don't even really care. They don't even really see it that way. They don't acknowledge it. They're just like in the moment right now. I don't want to be called mean words. I want to look like I'm the virtuous person. And, whoever gets raped or killed, even if it's me, then so let it be.
I'm going to add something very small before we go to the next question, because I think absolutely 100%. And I think it's white savior complex. They have picked this minority of brown men and they want to support them because they think, oh, these little poor brown people, they don't understand anything. I understand better. I know better. I'm going to save these poor brown people, even if it's at the cost of all the ex-Muslims and all the women.
And this is
whatever
across
race
Europe.
Thank you.
This is Netherlands, Germany,
Exactly.
Sweden.
Yes.
Exactly.
I call it white savior complex.
White savior complex. It's the other side of white supremacy, but it's still white. In their head, they think, oh, I pick this group of people. These are the oppressed. I am the oppressor. These are the oppressed. I'm going to save them. To hell with the rest of the world. We can all burn in hell. And they don't understand the misogyny behind it. They don't understand the racism behind it because in virtue signaling, as you said, Yasmine.
And they're saving the person that will kill them.
Exactly.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
There's a video going around now of a guy who's like the leader of a socialist party who is gay, and he was walking into like a Palestinian kebab shop to support them, and they started beating him up because he was gay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where's the popcorn? This is exactly like, how did you not see this happening? You deserve, you get what you get,
To me, I've lost my empathy for these people, and it's very difficult for me not to have empathy because it's everything I do without any boundaries, and that's one of the problems. But these people, I'm like, yes, I actually want the popcorn, yes, and I want,
Yes.
do it. Let's have fun. Let's see how you survive these people, because you keep calling us, like you tell us this is victim blaming. You're virtue signaling. All these words have meaning. And then, okay, let's see how you tame the beast. You think you are better? You think you can do it? Let's see it. Let's see you do that. Let's see you survive it. How will you get out of this? Okay, go ahead. Have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Mars, you're next.
Thank you, Yasmin. Hi, Sarah. How you doing? You may have already answered this question in your previous dialogue. So if you have, please skip ahead to someone else. But I wanted to ask, do you follow someone by the name of Dumisami Washington on X?
No.
Okay, so he's been someone who's been very, very supportive of Israel, and he's also, from what I understand, is also very aware of some of the happenstances that go on inside Iraq. He's been incredibly critical of the way Trump is currently handling the situation in Iran. Although he supported the strikes, he was disturbed by the way he accepted the Qatari jet, and especially with the recent ceasefire. But my reason for asking that is not to criticize one administration or the other, but Dumisami has been making the point that Qatari money is really influencing the internal U.S. politics, whether it's Trump, whether it's Biden. And he pulls out multiple examples from either political party, Obama, Trump, whatever, Biden, you name it. And his overall point is there seems to be so much financial influence in U.S. politics, but from certain Middle Eastern countries. So with that kind of influence, where do you see this going in the future? With Iran, with what's going on in the Middle East, what have you?
I'm not sure if I understand your question, Mars. The thing is, the Islamic regime has the second biggest gas reserve in the world. That's a lot of money. And the US likes its gas and oil. They're not going to do anything to endanger that. The same happens with the other countries around the world. So their priority is keeping the regime in check, weakened if they can, but they like to keep the gas price and the oil price under control. They'll do anything to do that. Like if it's, they will kill anybody they have to kill. They will negotiate with anybody they have to negotiate. They'll send money to anybody they have to send money to keep that price in check. And they like the way the regime operates because they understand that. They know how to control it. They know how to keep it. The regime lies and plays games, and they know how to play that game back with them. Send them a couple of billions of dollars. They'll be quiet for a couple of years. Hit them somewhere it hurts. They'll be quiet for a couple of years. They won't do anything to upset the region because they care about that money and they care about the price of oil more than they care about our lives.
I think you pretty much answered my question with that statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mars. Thank you.
Thank you, Mars. There's a few people that still have their hands raised, and I love you, and I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to wrap this up. But this conversation can continue on the community. Sarah can answer your questions there. And if you're not yet part of the Yasmine Mohammed community, you can just go to my website and click join, and then this conversation can keep going. We started the community because it was really hard to end the conversations because there's always so much more to say, so much more to ask, so much more to talk about. So I hope to see you there. Please post your questions there and we'll continue the conversation. Sarah, before I let you go today to conclude everything, Courtney's been asking this question, which other people have asked her, and it's one that I think a lot of people are going to be wondering, and I thought it might be a good way to conclude this podcast, which is by asking you, what can we do to support the Iranian people who are fighting against the Islamic regime? What can just like little old us, random people around the world who see you, hear you, and believe in you, what can we do?
First, thank you for joining us here today, guys. on your Sunday. It means a lot to have all of you sitting here and listening, because I keep thinking nobody will listen to me. Who am I? Yasmine said you should do it. I'm like, why would they listen to me? Like, okay, let's do it. But in my head, I'm thinking nobody's gonna. And I really appreciate you for proving me wrong. It means a lot to me. What you can do is raise your voices. Don't be silent. Don't be afraid. You're not going to lose any. You're going to lose friendships. To hell with those friends. You won't lose a job because you are protected in the West. You have freedom of expression. Use it. When it's no hijab day, post your pictures in solidarity. When Yasmine says something on Twitter, on Instagram, when accounts like me, small people who have not many followers and our voices are not that loud, say something and we get brutally attacked, say something. Stand up. Be vocal. Be angry. Somebody called me passionate a couple of months ago, said, "Oh, Sara, you're so passionate. I really appreciate you." I'm like, I'm not passionate. I'm angry. And there's a group of men sitting there all looking at me like, she's lost the plot. I'm angry. I'm leaning into my anger. I'm happy to be angry. This anger is fueling me. Use your anger. Be angry. Don't sit there and just say, "Oh, this is just it. They deserve that. They don't deserve any better." Don't do that. Speak up. Stand up for us. Hijab is not a cultural thing. Not all cultures deserve to be respected. Gender apartheid, misogyny, homophobia, racism. See them, say something. Doesn't matter what you say, just say something. Be loud, be vocal. Very, very small accounts can make a lot of difference on social media. You are at a party, a dinner with your friends. Somebody says something, stand up for us. Call them out. Don't just sit there and smile and say, whatever, let's keep the peace. Rock the boat. That's all I'm going to say. Just rock the boat. Capsize the fucking boat. Sorry, Yasmine, I had to say that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sara. And I completely concur with everything that you said. And we are so privileged. We are so privileged to be living in the West, to be living in countries where we can speak our voice. You know, I'm dealing with people all the time, every day, who are living in Muslim majority countries where literally they cannot speak, or they will be imprisoned, or they will be killed, whether it's by religious police or whether it's by their own family members. So by you not speaking, you are spitting on this gift that has been given to you, that has been bestowed upon you. Lives have been lost in order for you to have that gift. So use it. Use it wisely. Do not take it for granted. Completely concur with you, Sara. Absolutely. Speak up. If you feel it in your gut, if you want to say it, be authentic. Be yourself. Don't suppress yourself. Even if you're asking questions, having a discussion, you don't have to have all the answers, but throw the questions out there. Get the discussion going. And you know what? There might be some backlash, but you also might be planting seeds. And so it's totally worth it.
Thank you, Yasmine, for giving us this space. I should say that I appreciate you for seeing me, for keeping me sane. And thank you for sharing this with us. I love you so much. Thank you.
Sara. Love you too. Love you all. Thank you all for joining us here. And I look forward to continuing the conversation. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
After hearing all that, you might be left wondering, what can I do? How can I help? Well, this is why I created a nonprofit called Free Hearts, Free Minds. We are the only organization dedicated exclusively to helping these free thinkers. We empower them with our programs and supportive community, lifting them up so they can heal, speak out, and begin to make positive changes, not just in their own lives, but within the broader community around them. If this is a cause that resonates with you and you want to make a difference, one way to do that is by donating to Free Hearts, Free Minds. Because not enough people care about this cause, we need people like you to help fuel this change. You can donate via our website, freeheartsfreeminds.com. Thank you. Every dollar you donate makes a difference.